I don't know how to put this, but I'm kind of a big deal.
Dr. Bones, listening to Dr. Bones.
Good afternoon, this is Dr. Bones Live, and since it is Saturday, that means it's time for another episode of...
And now it's time for another episode of Vlogger's Corner with Britt.
Vlogger's Corner. Welcome, Britt, back to the show. How are you, Britt?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Very well, thank you. Are you back home now?
I am, thank goodness.
Yeah. Well, you know what? We got through last week. We did pretty well. So, despite because there are some remote locations that obviously there are not a lot of towers, so it's not always the best reception. But no problem, we got through it. So first off, like I told you just before we got on here, I did catch up on last week's Arrow, and thankfully, I realized there was a new one this week too. So I'm caught up on both. So last week's episode from 2 weeks ago. You know what? I really liked it because I kind of like seeing more of an in-depth show about Diggle.
Yeah.
And the whole kind of back and forth, and he protected the guy in the terrorist list, and then the guy, everybody kind of knew he was a douche, but just kind of took a little things, kind of bring light to it, and again, of course, what happens? He ends up saving him again because they run into him because they were looking for him in the hunt for him. At least this kind of somewhat cooperative company that had to do with the military brought Diggle and his ex-wife back, and of course it looks like they're hooking up again, so there's a somewhat of new storyline that they might work in somewhere down the road. And otherwise, you know what, I really liked the episode. I thought it was a really good one. I mean, it was actually kind of really action-packed, and it was really, really enjoyed it. And so altogether, like it was good that they give it a bit of a different storyline. Obviously, they still had Arrow Oliver in it, but kind of focusing on Diggle a little bit for more than like a few minutes, I actually thought was really smart because it kind of gives people a more in-depth view of what Diggle was really all about.
Yeah.
And just to see him, for lack of better words and expression, just to see Diggle kick some serious ass was a lot of fun. Let me tell you.
Yeah, it was nice to see some ass get kicked. I was rooting for Diggle. I thought that the episode also offered some philosophical questions that kind of the show had touched on more last season, and it came back up again with, using criminals to, do something good, but they're still criminals. And I really enjoy the dynamic between Diggle and, I can't think of his name right now, Deadeye, yeah.
It was, you're right, it was finally nice. Finally they introduced the Suicide Squad, and I was waiting for that. I wasn't wondering when they're going to do that.
Yeah, and I thought it worked, and they pulled it off really well. And obviously, I definitely would much rather have a Diggle-centric episode than another episode about Sarah or Roy.
Well, yeah. Speaking of Roy, yeah. We'll get to him in a second, but yeah, Bring the Suicide Crew was actually really good because what's his name? The Claw was an actual part of the Suicide Crew. There was only one, I think, that wasn't I think it was not a recreation, but a different name made up for the Suicide Crew. Otherwise, Deadeye and the Claw were part of the original.
Oh, well, that's cool.
And so that made a lot of fun, and it was a good episode, and the fact that you're right that these guys have done horribly wrong, but they're used to do good, and it does pose some moral questions. It's almost the kind of I wouldn't say it's an age-old question, but that do two wrongs make a right,
Absolutely, I think it's really true.
So it was nice to see him touch on that, and I'm glad you brought that up because honestly, when I was just thinking about we'll call it the brutality of it, and I was almost ready to skip right over that because I almost didn't think of it. So thank you for bringing it up because you're absolutely right. They did post some moral questions, and it's good when a show does that because the show is not just about action, let's say like a cheesy love story, that sort of thing. No, there can be other things brought in. It's just a question of how it's worked in.
Yeah, I really enjoy that. I really enjoyed that about last season, and then they kind of touched on it this season. But in Oliver last season, he was just killing people. That was it. He was judge, jury, and executioner, and then this year he's gone the exact opposite, trying not to kill people, but there have been issues about the fact that someone might really legitimately need to be taken out, and he's still saying that he won't. So it's kind of, it's bringing up some, I really like when you get into the tricky gray matter of morality and kind of discussing things out in this fictional world that have real life implications.
Well, exactly, and it just it made the episode altogether interesting. So this episode, which I literally just finished watching like maybe an hour and a half ago. So obviously Roy's back, and Oliver asked him, "Are you ready to get back in the field?" So obviously he is. But they show because obviously this one's more about chasing down the Huntress, because she obviously is the mob boss's daughter and she wants to kill him. So they finally think they have her trapped, and they show essentially again that from the mirror cue how it can give you rage, because Roy obviously put his hand through the window, pulled the guy like right out of the car, and was ready to hurt him, and pretty much Arrow had to turn on him and say, no, like, relax. Remember Speedy. I'll get to that name in just 1 second, but remember Speedy. They kind of calmed down because there's still the rage part of it that he's got to learn to control, and obviously he's still having major issues with. Yeah,
that was interesting because the thing that calmed him down was, having Thea's name said and thinking about Thea. And then when he attacked the guy in the club, he saw Thea and he calmed down.
Right.
So then Oliver's logic that you need to stay away from Thea so you can work on your rage. Thea really isn't in this, particular setup in danger from Roy, because she's not a target when he gets into a rage. So it was kind of an oxymoron. I understood what they were trying to say, but then the fact they kept saying that she was the reason he wasn't going off more worked opposite of what they were trying to convey.
Very true. And now getting to the Speedy name, because in the original comics, Speedy was the name of Arrow's sidekick. And he used to call Thea Speedy, and then it changed. That's why he keeps on bringing Speedy up, and kind of calms Roy down, which leads me to believe that Thea's his timeline is probably not going to be around too much longer.
Ooh, really?
Just because of the way the original comic was set out, I don't think Thea's going to be a character too much longer. I'm going to say probably by the end of the season, she'll be wiped out. And of course, there was the whole thing at the end where Roy was trying to break up with her and pretty much kind of forced a breakup by making out with some other chick, and which kind of sent her running. And I think it was kind of funny when she talking to Oliver. Thea was talking to Oliver and private in the office in the club, and she's like, "You know what? Oh, you're the only person who hasn't lied to me." And I was like, it kind of started to laugh. It's like, it's like, so little does she know. But then, when she takes off, just when she's walking along, it's pretty much the last 3 or 4 minutes of the show. And just to jump back for a second, when they were initially talking, because obviously the Canary was very much involved in this one, trying to protect the mob boss and stop the Huntress from killing him. And they said before, since as long as Slade's around, he's probably going to go after both their families. And guess who just happens to be in a limo driving along where Thea is and picks her up? None other than Slade. So there's another kind of seems almost a precursor to what's going to be Thea's demise.
Wow, I mean, now you mention it, that's a really good point. I hadn't even thought about her being killed off, but I think that you're making some really excellent points. I think that very well could be what happens. And definitely with him calling him Speedy, and that Roy would, take over Speedy's nickname in honor of her.
Right.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'm kind of mixed. I feel like Thea was such a character that could have been so much more, and she's been kind of underdeveloped as, I don't know, a kind of a filler storyline on the show. So I always kind of comes down to, in the writer's room, for understand, who creates more story, dead than alive, and Thea would actually be creating more story in her death than she has alive, which is kind of sad, but it's true.
Well, not only that, I mean, you had some good points too there, but I don't necessarily think it's because of Thea's character not being underdeveloped. Personally, I think for the most part she's somewhat of a useless character,
Okay.
She's almost more of a conciliary character where, no, she's been on a bunch of shows, but, if she drops off, people won't really forget, won't really remember her too much and then ends up forgetting about her pretty quickly. Just because she didn't have a real hard impact on the show.
Yeah.
I mean...
Yeah, I totally agree, and I don't think that there's been episodes where she hasn't been on, and I've been, hey, who do we not see this episode? And it kind of will come back to you. But yeah, she's not been a very important part to the show. And I think it really missed the boat because last season, if they had played up more, and they got rid of Tommy, who I thought was a bad decision to get rid of his character, but if they played up more of the angle with them and their relationship, it would have had more larger implications for the show. And so I definitely don't think she will be missed when and if she goes.
Oh, exactly, and then. Like I said, these are just guesses and ideas. Like I don't have any solid facts saying that that's going to happen. I mean, like I have no idea what the writers are thinking. But if you do a little comparison between the comic book and the show, and just the way things are kind of laying out, it could be possible.
I definitely agree. And I think they're trying to always. I think these shows especially try to go for that one quote unquote big death every season, and I definitely think that she is the most expendable character.
Well, and yeah, that's right. I know this is comparing. Comparing to a cartoon, but I'll tell you what I mean as opposed to someone being like I said, a conciliary character that people kind of know about, but if they're off the show, they won't. They're not necessarily going to miss them too much because they didn't have any hard impact. And Family Guy, this was about a month or two ago, they killed off Brian, which was one of the main characters. Of course, people were shocked because, how can you kill off a main character like that? And not even 3 episodes later, guess who's back on the show?
Brian.
Yeah, they found a way to bring him back, and they brought him back on the show because too many people were complaining just because he was such a main character. Now, if they'd gotten rid of, let's say, the brother Chris, not too many people would miss the character too much because there was never any there wasn't tons of episodes that were completely focused on him. They're either focused on Stewie and Brian, Peter and Lois, or Meg. If it's the same thing if they killed off Meg. No, they're killing off a major character here. That she's the butt of half their jokes.
Right. Yeah, that's a very good point. I think that anytime that they go for that big kill, with Brian, I remember hearing, I don't watch Family Guy, but I remember hearing all about it, that he was being killed off, so it was a very big deal, and I think that created a lot of buzz, and people were talking a lot about the show, but at the same time, that buzz wears off, and then people who watch the show and enjoy that character aren't able to see them anymore. So it's really hard. This week, spoiler alert, if people watch The Good Wife, I don't, but it was once again such a massive kill off that I heard about it, and they killed off one of their main characters. I'm forgetting the actor's name. I think the actor's name is Josh Charles. He played a character on the show, and they killed him off, and everyone was stunned. And so it's kind of, I don't know how they're going to be able to, obviously it's created a lot of shock, and how they're going to be able to fill that vacuum after his demise. And the same thing with Game of Thrones, getting rid of, that was in the books, but the Eddard Stark, that was a big shocker, but they were able to have enough amazing characters to kind of fill the gap. But I don't know. I definitely think with Arrow, this is on a smaller scale, so I don't know. If it wasn't Thea, who would be a character that you would say needs to be killed off the show?
That's a good question, because right now they all kind of have a part. Possibly, I would say the Canary. What's her real name?
Sarah?
Sarah, thank you. I pretty much say Sarah because despite her helping out Arrow and stuff like that, she's still evil. Despite the fact that people don't admit it, she still is a little evil. So. And it's not fact because she's evil, it's just because, Canary wasn't huge in the original Arrow, and not only that, it just, her character is kind of like an character, but, I think some people would say Laurel, but I disagree with that one, just because Laurel is more of a major character than Sarah is. So I would say Sarah would be the next to knock off if they're going to do a kill.
I totally agree. I cannot stand this character, honest to God. It gets worse every episode, and I don't know where it's all coming from. She was not a big. They had a thing about her being missing in action last year, but then all of a sudden she's back in town and she's with Oliver and she's his number one girl on the team, and she's like that annoying new girl at school who, they're kind of the classic adage is the new girl at school gets kind of ribbed on, but there are most times from my experience, where the new girl came to school and she is the buzz about everything. Everybody loves her. We don't know anything about her, but everyone loves her anyway. And for me, that's how Sarah is, and it's really annoying. And she's stepping on Felicity's toes.
I knew that was coming. I knew the Felicity thing was coming, but you know what? I agree with you. I think Felicity should be more a prominent character than she has been in the past 2 or 3 episodes.
I think that the fans, I feel like that came from a really organic place. She wasn't supposed to be an original part of the show, but fans really responded to her and loved her and got on Twitter and social media, and they expanded her part. No one, to my knowledge, got up and said, "Oh my God, this character Sarah is amazing. We need to have more of her." So why? I don't get it. Why is she pushing someone who's a fan favorite out when there was no, clamoring for her to be a bigger part of the show?
For this part, I'm not a big fan of hers either, but I think it's mainly because Slade's back in the picture. If Slade was in the picture, I don't think we'd see too much of her, to be honest.
Okay, and do you think Slade is going to be bumped off, or is he going to be a series-long big bad?
See, that's the thing, is I don't know, because he could potentially be a series-long big bad just because of all the stuff he's done and all the everything else that goes along with him. So it's potential to kind of make him stay on as a more sick and twisted Lex Luthor.
Oh, I can see what you're talking about there.
Like,
I missed the John Barrowman's character, Tommy Merlin's dad from last season. I don't know where he's been.
Yeah, good question. I don't know. I haven't really dug too deep into it, so I don't really have anything to say where he's been, because usually someone will say something about it, but I haven't heard too much about him at all. After they haven't used the character in a little bit, there hasn't been a word about him.
Yeah. I think that's a wasted opportunity.
But you never know. He could always be brought back. We never know what the writers are thinking, right? We're just kind of hoping for the best, and they do a good job.
That's what I'm hoping for.
Because obviously, I think we've talked about this briefly before, that not all the remakes of, let's say, the TV shows based off like a book or a comic will go well, or even original series, which had huge potential to do so well. Then after that writer strike, it just shot them in the foot, and they could just confuse the hell out of everybody. And that was Heroes.
Oh, yes.
Because it started off so strong. It's like, I'm really getting into this. And then they just tied too many stories into one character and brought them all out at once. So literally confusing everybody. You get lost at some point.
Oh, I totally agree. And they're bringing it back.
Really?
Yes, they claim a limited engagement, which is always means for, if it does well, we're definitely going to be doing more episodes, which sucks because it undermines the complete creative process in the name of greed. So, I'm not going to be checking it out.
Yeah, I'm not going to waste my time either. Like I said, after they went downhill, I was like, I can't believe they did this. It was one of those shows I look forward to watching every week, and then all of a sudden it's like, I'll watch something else or nothing at all.
What was the storyline? What was the story where you said this has really jumped the shark?
Probably when they started tying everything into what was their character's name?
The cheerleader?
No, well, not the cheerleader, because first it was about save the cheerleader, save the world, but they started tying too much into was it not Ando? Ando was pretty much the comic relief for Hero. Hero, yeah. So Hero and Ando. The thing is, I liked that. That was smart of them because they give Hero's friend like a kind of comic relief, because that's what Ando was. But tying more into his father, going back into the samurai thing, and then there's this guy. He's got all these powers, and kind of Siler kind of disappears because now he's in this prison cell, and just like they're just kind of just jumping here, back, forth, and everywhere. It's like, right, I'm completely lost now.
Yeah, it got very dense very quickly.
So
I think.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that I think for me it was the whole thing with Peter and the cheerleader, that they had chemistry, and I thought they were going to go romantic, and it turned out he was her uncle.
Something like that, yeah. Ugh.
And And then I was always waiting for him. They said that he was on the other side of the balance, where there was someone super evil and he was super good. But then he never did anything with his powers. I was waiting for him to become a quote unquote Superman-ish character, and it never happened.
Exactly. So that's good. That's a really good point. I don't think I thought too much about that, but no, you got a good point there. But yeah, it just like it was just done. I mean, they killed it, literally killed it. But what are you gonna do? And speaking of jumping the shark, just because this is something, depending on how much people know about like Happy Days and that sort of thing, because that's where Jump the Shark came from, because they'd pretty much done all they thought they could do for the show, for the series, and then they had Fonzie jump the shark tank and say, "You know what? We've done it all. We're pretty much ready to tie the series up and say goodbye." But it was funny, but at the same time, it worked because it was a good series. They ended on a good note and they finished it when they should have. So a lot of shows have done it properly, and a lot of shows haven't. And that's one of the ones that they've done really well. And that wouldn't necessarily. Oh, I guess it's a cliche now, but a lot of shows have used that Jump the Shark, and they'll do that. They may not necessarily end the series right away. They may go for another few seasons, but they'll make a reference to it, or they'll show someone doing it, and it happened actually in South Park. Except what happened was Fonzie went to make the jump, but he didn't make it. so the shark ate him. So that made me crack up. But there's a lot of other shows that made a reference to jumping the shark. So just in case anybody doesn't know that, that's where it came from, was Happy Days.
Fun fact.
Yep. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that stuck out on TV this week. Oh, actually, not necessarily on TV, but I'm only going to touch very gently on this one, on the Malaysian Flight 370. Like we talked about last week, Courtney Love decided to put her 2 cents in. But she was nowhere even close to being right, and that was disproved. But the reason why I want to talk very briefly about this is because we could debate about this forever, and we got other interesting stuff to talk about this side. But the hearts and prayers go out to the families of those who lost family members on that flight. But what they're saying now is it crashed in the Indian Ocean. But if you think about it logically, in some cases, I mean, because obviously this is going to spin into I don't know how many conspiracy theories, if there's aren't already a million and one already. But if it did in fact crash in the ocean, there'd be millions of pieces of that plane everywhere, because it's like running into a brick wall. From that altitude and that speed, the water becomes like glass, almost like a brick. So just a little food for thought. So and that's just my 2 cents, because I saw the whole big article on it the other day. So but I just wanted to throw that in, and more or less just to say that Courtney Love still is the quote unquote, for lack of better words, media whore, and we've had enough of her. We don't want to hear anymore. We don't care. Just keep your silence and stay out of the news. Do us all a favor, please. So,
I'll second that.
Yeah. So, just getting into rock news. This only ties into Courtney Love only because it's Kurt Cobain, and apparently there's been pictures from the suicide scene that they came upon that hadn't been released, and I haven't found them yet, but it's got to do with some CBC photos. So they're not saying this is enough to reopen the case and go back into it, but there's some interesting photos that kind of more than caught their eye for certain things. Just the way stuff was laid out, and it kind of seemed like it was set up a little too perfectly. But again, not to open the case. Just stuff like his wallet laying down with his license pulled out to identify himself, and just a whole bunch of other things that, again, there's many conspiracy theories, and I'm not going to go into this too much at all. But, I mean, there's so many factors that doesn't make sense at all. And not from the note to the wallet to being able to hold a shotgun steadily when apparently, according to the autopsy, that there was 3 times the lethal dose of heroin. Now, even if you have been a heroin addict for as many years as he has, and a lot of other people have, still, it means you can handle a lot, but it still doesn't mean you can handle that much. And at least still be somewhat coherent. Because after a while, I mean, people will claim to be able to handle it. Let's say someone gets really hammered, or it's like really high, whatever it may be. You know, after a while, they may be able to handle it, sort of, sort of, meaning they may be able to fool some people, but it doesn't mean they can hop behind a wheel or walk a straight line for 25 feet without stumbling or starting to tip over.
It's very interesting. I mean, well, did they say that regardless? I haven't done a lot of research about this case, but do they know that even if, given that level is in his blood, if he hadn't have been shot, would he still have passed away from the amount of heroin, or have they not said?
They pretty much alluded to that when they did the initial autopsy and all the books and the stuff came out on it. If he hadn't shot himself, he probably would have been dead anyways. Just of an overdose instead of a shotgun wound, right? And that's the other thing is if he took that much, why the hell would he get the gun? You know, so there's just like a million one stories, questions that can maybe answer logically and sound what the right. But like I said, this is just one of those things we could debate about forever because there's already a million one conspiracy theories about this one too. So I just wanted to bring that up. So once I find the photos or find a link for it, I will post that for you guys. The other thing, a few other things in the rock news is any Iron Maiden's fans. The singer has invested $450,000. Excuse me. Wow, I'm having a little trouble with my L's there today. But in the world's longest aircraft, and it's pretty much it's designed kind of like a blimp-like airship, so it's got the potential to be like super long, and he's also actually a pilot, the singer, anyway. So he was actually on Ice Pilots, that show it's on Canada History Channel. I'm not sure it'll be on the U.S. History Channel in the U.S., but I'm assuming it probably will be. But he's a pilot already, so this is something that's why he's invested in it, because he's hoping to fly it. And he's also flown a 757 before, so he's a very experienced pilot.
Neat.
So a little fun fact about him. The other thing that was kind of funny, I'm actually like a really big fan, and this guy's actually got a decent voice despite some of the other stuff he's done. Lead singer from Slipknot, Corey Taylor, and he obviously has band Slipknot. He's got his other band Stone Sour, and he's done a bunch of other stuff. And like he's actually got a really decent voice, despite all I'll say the grumbling and if you want to call it shouting. Even though like I'm a huge fan, like this guy has a lot more range than he initially gets credit for. Because what they did was there was a Ronnie James Dio tribute, and he sang a song called "Rainbow in the Dark." And the link is not up here. I'm looking for it. I'm assuming it's on YouTube because there are a whole bunch of other bands that did a tribute to him, like Metallica and that sort of thing. And so I haven't heard it yet, but I'm looking for it to be very interesting because I'm curious as to what style like he decided to go with, which is more or less why I want to see it. And
what style are you hoping he goes with?
I'm kind of hoping the Stone Sour, because like the Stone Sour is kind of his more, we'll call it mellow voice. So, but like I said, he's a decent guy, and I remember hearing this on the radio. This is a kind of a fun fact, and it hasn't happened, but apparently they have talked before. There's a contemporary artist. His name is Ray LaMontagne.
Yes, I love him.
So in English, it'd be Ray the Mountain.
Neat. I never knew that.
That's what LaMontagne means. It means the mountain. So Corey Taylor, can't remember what show he's on. Anyways, I heard him say this. It says, "I would die happy man if I could do a duo with Ray LaMontagne."
Sweet.
So they actually had talked not too long after that. Nothing materialized, but they kind of got in touch through their agents or whatever. So anything's possible. So yeah, that it's. I'm not sure if it's one of those things where it's probable, not possible, but you never know. I mean, everybody can do well. Okay, wrong choice of words. No, anything can happen. Stranger duos have happened in the music business. So that's all I'm saying. Is anything can happen in the music business. You never know. And obviously, a lot of the bands that I've listened to and we listen to are starting to get older, so they can start to get more mature. And the music likes change a little bit, and they try different things because in some cases they've pretty much done all they want to do. So now it's time to kind of break off and try something different.
I think it's a good plan.
And it's like a lot of bands. A lot of bands, a lot of times when they're finally done, they'll go off and do like a solo project. Maybe they'll start producing. Like, you never know. And sometimes like the move they've made like afterwards is still a good move because they're just as good as they were at the other thing. Perfect example is Dr. Dre from like NWA, right? He was in a very, very popular hip hop band in the early 90s. And then he started into producing, and he's an awesome producer. And then look at the talent he's found. And now, of course, he's got his beats, and like like it just shows that with a lot of times age and maturity can do a lot, and you can still be really good at one thing as well as another thing. So people are multi-talented. It's just a question of trying to find that other talent.
Yeah, he really started the whole branding thing and diversifying all of these different areas. So it's very interesting. The thing that annoys me is when someone when they start with the perfume, that's kind of, except for Taylor Swift, because that stuff smells amazing. But most people, when they start getting into the perfume, I'm thinking, I don't know about this.
Yeah, well, yeah. So right. I mean, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But the thing that kills me and the most is I guess some of them can do it, but this is one thing, Britt, you and I have talked about plenty of before in the show, just because of some actors that I'm not exactly huge fans of, and the what I was going to get at was the actors going from music to acting or from acting to music. Sometimes it just doesn't work, and it just drives me crazy. Just because you're a good musician doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be a good actor, and just because you're a good actor doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be a good musician.
I totally agree, and it's so annoying when someone is an outstanding, musician or actor, and they, say, "What are you going to do next? I mean, this movie is so big, or this album is something like that." Well, the next thing I'm going to do is get into acting or get into music, the exact opposite of everything I've been having success with, because I think that that's my real calling. I was like, if that was your real calling, you wouldn't have had success in the first genre, okay?
Well, exactly. So, it's just one of those things. That's like, I guess we'll call it a pet peeve when it comes to that sort of thing. Because sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and sometimes these people are casted, but there's like a little cameos, they're a little cheesy line. So it's funny because it's not a major role, but when they shove it into a major role, it doesn't always work.
Exactly. And I'm sure after Jared Leto has won his Oscar, everyone who is thinking about doing both things has gotten more excited about it, but at least he is the exception, not the rule.
Well, that's right. So, like I said, it can happen, but 9 times out of 10, it doesn't pan out very well. At least I don't think so. And even if you think you can make roles specifically for them, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work. The other person who actually did pretty well was two of them actually did pretty well. It was Ice Cube and Ice-T.
Oh, that's true.
Because Ice-T was in Law and Order SVU, and he did do a few other roles. I mean, I know he's got that reality show. I'm not sure if it's still on, but with his wife Candy, or whatever her name is.
Coco.
Oh, Coco, that's it. I knew it was some cheesy name like that. So we'll call it some stripper name, but. And then Ice Cube did a whole bunch of movies. I mean, he did a couple of comedies, but he did like a lot of good ones, but even though they're kind of fit for him because kind of the gangster African American setting, but he did well. He actually did really well because he's actually a good actor. And I guess one of the movies he's most known for is the Friday movies.
Right.
And those are really funny. Those are ones I can watch over and over again because they're so funny. And one of our first introductions to Chris Tucker.
That's right.
Which was really funny as his character Smokey and just as annoying. And because actually, his first movie that I saw him in, I think actually his first movie was The Fifth Element.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And then go Ben. So that kind of really stuck out. And obviously, Bruce Willis was in it too, he's the main character, but yeah.
Yes, I think that, and that was also Luc Besson, the director from Taken. That was his first big Hollywood movie. So
Well, that's right. Actually, you know what? Luc Besson actually also did Nikita, the original film Nikita.
That's right.
Yep. Uh-huh.
I actually, I love. Maybe this is because of the actress, and I like Bridget Fonda, but I actually prefer. That's one of the only ones that I prefer the remake.
No, fair enough.
Don't shoot me.
Well, fair enough. But but just a little fun fact with him. Now, just stemming from that, I mean, it just the Friday movies are really funny. I mean, obviously they're somewhat Cheech and Chong-ish kind of stoner movie, but they're still funny because they still have a lot of funny stuff, and it's just one of those things aside that ties into a little bit, but there's still so much other funny stuff in it that that can be completely pushed aside. And his cousin who he moves in with in the second one, I can't remember his name right now, but he's actually he does stand up. He's a really funny guy, and I think we just lost Britt, so just stand by for a moment here. We'll call her right back and just be one moment here. So, there we go. Hey, Britt.
Hello.
Okay, we got you.
Okay.
So all I was saying was his cousin, who he stays with in the second movie, he's a really funny, but his stand up is just as funny. And I wish I could remember his name. We'll have to look that up later. But when Ice Cube's character gets there, his name is Craig, and he gets there. They won the lottery. His cousin won the lottery, so he bought himself a BMW, and he was looking at the rims. He's like, "Hey, Craig, check out these tens." He goes, "Check out these 20s." He goes, "Those ain't 20s." You're right, they're tens. They're tens. But just really funny. Just like their chemistry together was really well done.
Yes, absolutely. I've only seen some of it on TV. I can't attest to the whole movie. I've been meaning to watch the whole thing, but I've seen it. I did see the Ice Cube movie. I think it's called Ghost of Mars. The Carpenter. I can't think of his last name. I mean his first name right now, but the one with I can't remember her name either. She's a blonde chick from Species. But they made a movie, and it was good. I actually enjoyed that, and I thought it was a really good sci-fi movie. And he did a really cool.
Oh wait, almost done here. Something's up here. Let's try this one more time. Sorry about this, guys. And we're back, right?
I'm back.
Okay, good. So, you're right. You said he was really good. Now, we're gonna finish up with that because even though it was a lot of fun, we kind of sidetracked a little bit. So now, Britt, the blogs you've been working on and the blogs that are out currently.
Okay, I did a review of the review from Divergent. We talked about that last week. Good movie. I gave it an 8.3, and then I did a review. I don't watch a lot of kids' movies, but sometimes a movie speaks to your heart, and I broke down and watched Frozen, and I loved it. It was so cute. I feel like a kid again. I really enjoyed it, and as a sister, it was really special, and me and my sister really enjoyed it together. So, I think people who, if you're a little, this is for the price of one, so that is really cool.
You know what? A lot of people have seen. Oh no.
You both have your own princess, so that's pretty neat.
And that's no, and it's fine because I know a lot of people that have watched it. I've only seen bits and pieces, and mainly because there's a character in there, the King of Weaseltown, I think it is. Yes. Anyways, he actually looks like a guy we work with, and with a mustache and everything. Yeah, so.
Bless his heart.
Yeah, so. Except this specific person, he's just known as a little pecker, so we'll leave it at that. So, yep, so we'll move on to your blogs. That's not important right now. So, and stop calling me Shirley.
Them are some fighting words. But yeah, it was a really cute movie, I mean, as an adult, I thought, I don't know if I can enjoy this, but I did enjoy that movie Tangled. So yes, definitely adults. It's something for adults to enjoy. Kids will obviously. I mean, if I were 5, I thought this is the greatest movie that has ever been made.
You know what? I think that's the thing is a lot of kids movies are pretty funny, and there's one that never made it to theaters. It's just one of those went straight to DVD, but it was funny. It was a continuation of Aladdin, but this one was actually Aladdin and 40 Thieves, and that is probably one of the funniest movies I've ever seen. I mean, I was laughing the entire time, and mainly because they let Robin Williams go nuts again as a genie, and it was one of those ones. Like, I mean, I laughed the whole way through. It was really funny.
Okay, was that the sequel, the direct-to-video sequel to Aladdin?
Essentially is what it is, because they made 2 or 3 of them, and that was one of them, and that was really funny.
Okay, yeah, I do remember that one, and that was funny. That was one of my favorites. I actually enjoyed that a little more than the original Aladdin.
Yeah, I totally did too.
Yeah, fun fact. Anyway. So yeah, and then Pretty Little Liars wrapped up its run. I talked about that, and then the highlights for last week's TV. It was a fun week. It was a very fun week. If you're watching Bates Motel, that is one of the best shows on television. There was just been twist after twist on that show, and some of you can see coming, but you feel like such an envelope, you don't really think it's going to happen, and they do it anyway. So I really have a lot of respect for that show. And stars is just as ever, and I'm rooting for DJ Tanner. She's still in it.
Yeah, well, that's one thing you can always carry on your own, because I'm probably never going to watch Dancing with the Stars for more than like a minute, maybe.
You're missing out.
Well, sure, we'll go with that.
It inspires me.
Well, we'll see if you'll become a famous dancer then.
Well, I think I gave it up many years ago, but I think if I just had stayed with it, you never would have known. But I mean, I don't. Those days are behind me now. Maybe local competitions. I don't know. But I did see Julianne Hough in person, and she is very little, and so that helps you understand how I am myself a littler person. But when I saw her in person, she is even shorter than myself.
So, just, do you lose again, Britt? You still there? Just one more moment here. Oh, jeez. And why not? Let's try this one more time. There we go. You there?
Am I back?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Oh my goodness.
Can you hear me, Britt? Can you not hear me at all? Sorry guys, just one more moment here. We can wrap this up. I gotcha. Can you not hear me?
I can.
Okay, good. Alright, so she's a lot littler than you.
She is. So she's barely 5 feet tall. So that is shorter than me technically. And so yeah, it's neat. It was neat to see her in person and kind of gave you a gauge, because as a shorty, I'm always like, that person's really short. They're just faking being tall. But that gave me a little hope. But yeah, she was fun in person. She gave a good performance. It was when she was engaging in her singing career.
Oh, all right, hon. So that is all the time we have for this week, and tune in next Saturday for Bloggers Corner with Britt. Britt, like always, thank you for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll talk to you next week. Until then, guys, thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next Saturday at 3, which will be the last one for a week because I'm going on vacation. So we'll talk to you later tonight about 8:30 p.m. for New Music Saturday. And we do have confirmation that Brad from the Midnight Hour will be on to introduce the new song Monster. So you're going to want to tune in for that. That'll be about 9:30 p.m. Eastern. Talk to you soon. Bones out.